y'all, today we're out in our herb garden and we are at our lemon balm plants. As you can tell, I love lemon balm. We have a very big bed of it, and lemon balm is a medicinal. Y'all could look up and research and find all the really cool medicinal benefits to lemon balm. And another thing to keep in mind is it self-seeds. So all of these ended up self-seeding last year and they're done this big. So it gets really big really fast. So not only is it medicinal, another thing that I like to use our lemon balm for is I like to make a homemade vinegar. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So what I do to make our homemade vinegar, and it's really simple, only use 3 ingredients including the lemon balm, is I use a gallon jar. I make a lot, so I make mine in gallon jars. You could always use less. So after we get that, we're just going to get some of the lemon balm here. I have so much. So what I do from this point, I just cut it up into somewhat smaller pieces. You can cut it up into even smaller pieces if you want, but I find as long as they'll come through this whenever we get to the straining part at the end, that is perfectly fine and that it works great. So I like my vinegar. This is why I like the lemon balm vinegar, because it has a lemony smell. So I like to use this, and I like it to smell like be pretty fragrant. So I add a lot of lemon balm in here, and we'll just keep adding it in. And I like it to be a little, like, I mash it down too like that, and I like it to be a little more than halfway. So we're going to keep going. And like I was saying, I make a lot of vinegar, and I make quite a few gallons at a time. It's actually really easy, and it takes time to do it, but it's very fast, and you really don't spend that much actual time of actually working on it. It just kind of sits and does its own thing. So that's about how much of the lemon balm that I add in there. And I will meet y'all inside and show y'all the other things that I add to it to make vinegar. We're back inside, and I totally forgot to mention that you can make vinegar out of pretty much any herb or fruit or anything like that. This is just my favorite one. I have made it out of lots of different mints. I think I've got like 7 different mints, and I only ended up liking one of them. It was okay. It was the orange mint. And I've also tried to make it with aloe, because I use it in my hair, and all the other mints and the aloe all smelled horrible. So I do not suggest using that. It was really, really bad for me as far as how it smelled. So my favorite way to do it is with lemon balm. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to add sugar. So this is basically how you're going to get your fermentation to get going, is you're going to add sugar, and we don't need like vinegar to start or anything like that. So we're going to add sugar, and the next thing we need to do is use filtered water or rainwater. Basically, you don't want water that has a lot of chlorine in it, because it will like prohibit the fermentation process. And another thing I do is I do this kind of a lazy way. Whenever I started, I used to fill the water like all the way to the top, and you get more vinegar that way, but your leeway, like as far as like your cushion, as far as stirring and everything, whoa, is not very much. So I like to fill mine only to about right there. I tend to forget things or get busy and don't have enough of time and have to put things off sometimes, and this gives me a little bit of cushion there, a little bit of wiggle room. And if you want, you can stir it like this, but that is basically all you need to do to get it to get going. I just add a little cloth and a rubber band to the top, and I will come back to this in 2 days. So I just stir this every 2 days. If you do put it to where it goes up higher, you probably will need to stir it every day to a couple times a day. Whenever I did it that high, I had to do it a couple times a day. But this is the beginning of the vinegar process. It's really easy. It doesn't have much time as far as hands-on time, and it's just a fun little project to do. Plus, it's really budget friendly and a lot cheaper to make this way. So y'all stick around and we will come back on day 2. I totally forgot to tell y'all how much sugar I added. So if I'm making a gallon of vinegar, I add in a cup of sugar. And if you were making a half a gallon, you'd do a half a cup, or a quart, you'd add a quarter of a cup. Okay, so that's like the ratio of the sugar that you add. And you want to be sure and use filtered water too. I think I said that. And I have waited a lot longer than I usually ever wait. We have been incredibly busy, and I just have not had the time to do this. So we are on day 4, and they are about to overflow. Look at that. They are so big. So hopefully we don't make a mess when we do this. But this is why I like to make sure and keep the water that low. And look at how much activation and like fermentation we got going there with all the bubbles. This stuff is really, really happy. But yeah, we are super, super full. So I am really glad we're going to get to this, and hopefully I will see y'all on in 2 more days. So this will be day 6. My goodness, the days are going by fast. We'll see you then. Okay, we're on day 6, and I forgot to say that you want to be sure and use a non-reactive spoon like wood or plastic or stainless steel. That way you don't mess up your fermentation at all. But it is looking really good and getting really bubbly. So we are doing good. I'll show, whoa, that one's really went up high. It's really bubbly. But we will just stir it like this and just push everything down, and we'll come back in 2 more days. Okay, we're on day 9, and all we need to do now is just make sure and push all of this stuff down and stir it around. As you can tell, it is still really active and really bubbly. Whoa, that one, it really needs to be stirred. Look at that. Okay, so we'll just add the cloth, and I'll see y'all back again in a day or 2, or actually 2 to 3 days probably. Okay, we're day 12, and this is smelling so strong, just like wine. It is really, really strong here, but we have got lots of bubbles, and it's still just doing its thing, and we'll be back in about 2 or 3 days. Now we're on day 16, and I have not been good about stirring these as soon as I should, but that's why I love this, because you kind of have a little cushion here. So this is really starting to smell like vinegar now. And also, whenever we reach like the 2-week point, I wait probably somewhere between 5 days to a week and stir it then, now that it's kind of more at the vinegar stage and it's not quite as active. So I will see y'all then. Now we're on day 23, and it is smelling like vinegar. And as we open this up, you can see here it almost looks like mold, but that isn't mold. That is actually the mother starting to form. So we're just going to go ahead and give this a little stir, and it's not even really bubbly hardly anymore. So it is getting really close to being done, and that's really cool with the mother. This one is showing it even better. You can tell that the mother's there, which is really neat because we didn't even start with that. We just started with water, sugar, and the herbs. So that is really awesome. I will see y'all back in about 7 days, and we will be all done. We're on day 33, and the vinegar is completely done. So I'll show you here what it looks like. That's just the mother starting to form there, and if we stir it, it's no longer bubbly or active or anything like that. So now what we need to do is to get all of this strained off, and I used lemon balm in mine, and y'all can basically customize yours to make it however you want. It's kind of like a designer, whatever your preference is. My favorite is lemon balm, but you could use all kinds of different herbs like orange mint and things like that to get it to smell like orange. Okay, and you can also actually use actual oranges too. So there's lots of ways to do this. So we're gonna strain this. I strained this a couple of times. So we are gonna strain it this way first. And there is a lot of herbs in here that we need to strain out. And I think I'm just gonna leave those. Well, maybe we'll put it in here like this, maybe. Okay, maybe we won't.
Make it hard.
Okay, we'll keep trying. See, this is why you need to cut it kind of small, because they may not want to come through. This is one of my smaller lids here, so than most of them. So what I do here is I just strain it like that, and I try and get as much out, and then I always keep another bowl there to put it in. And okay, so the next step, what I usually do, I like to test and make sure that they are, like, the pH is right, especially if you're using this with canning or anything like that. You want to make sure everything is good. You can get these at like Amazon and Walmart, and I also use a pipette with this. So basically all you need to do is take one of these little strips here, and you get a lot of them. I think it was like $10 and you got like 500 of these things, so it's not very expensive. And that way, in a way, so I don't like contaminate the whole batch of the vinegar, I just take my little test strip and put it in something, and I'll use a pipette and get a little bit of the vinegar, and we'll put some of that on there. You could do the whole thing if you want, but it kind of soaks it all up. And then we look at our test strip here, and you can look and see about what color it is to see where we're at. And it looks pretty close to 5. Yeah, so
5 or 6,
yeah,
which is about the most you can get anyway.
Yeah, I've never been able to get any better than that. So that's what mine always is, around the 30-day mark. So after we get all of that done, I like to strain it again. So you can put these in jars, or I prefer to use little bottles, like vinegar bottles, old vinegar bottles. I like that better because for one, I'm super clumsy. So I like this better. And also, you have to be really careful with things like this, especially if they are still somewhat active and bubbly. You want to make sure and burp these bottles like every day, or at least every week or so, just to make sure nothing like explodes or anything like that. So we are going to try and do this. Do you think you can hold that for me? That would probably go a lot better if you can. Okay, so then I like to strain it through several of these sieves and a funnel, and we'll try and get this in here. We'll try and not make a mess. I'm good at that too. So we'll try and just fill it up like this. And it is super simple. After this, we will be completely done. But I'll show you here all the stuff we caught. So this is why I like to kind of double strain it, because you can catch all that mother in there too. But even though you catch that, if you let these sit for a while, they will like start to grow the mother. But it's that simple. So you don't get a full gallon with it or anything. And like I was saying before, if it is bubbly at all, and even if it's not, if you don't go through this really fast, I always just open the lid. Like, you don't even have to take the lid completely off. Just make sure it kind of gets some air to it, especially if you're using a glass jar. That way nothing breaks. But it is super simple and super fun. I really enjoy doing this. It's kind of like a fun little project, and you can make it smell however you want using whatever herbs you want. And like I said, you can even use things like apples or oranges or different things like that, so it's fully customizable. But it really isn't a lot of hands-on time, as you can see. And what I do too, I also make a whole bunch of this. Since I'm going to be doing it anyways, I make several of these. That way I only have to do this every few months or so. And I was going to say, some of the things that I use them for, especially the lemon balm vinegar, I like to use it in my shine juice. That's what I call it. That's like my homemade all-purpose cleaner. I also may have a video on that, of how I make it. It's super easy and it smells amazing, works great. It is like the best window cleaner I've ever used, my most favorite thing. So I use it in that. I also use it to wash my hair, and also just kind of like a full body wash, just to get really nice and clean. And whenever I do that though, I dilute it quite a bit. Like, I use a bottle about that big, and I only pour like maybe that much vinegar in it, and the rest is water. If you have really sensitive skin, that probably isn't the best thing to do, but my skin seems to like it, so it works great for me. Other things I need, or that I use this for, and the whole reason I had to get this done today is because today is fertilizing day, and I also make my own homemade fertilizer, but it is really smelly, and it took me forever to figure out what to do to get that smell to go away. And it kind of goes along the lines, if anybody's ever had their dog get sprayed by a skunk and they use like vinegar or tomato juice, the acidity in it helps with the smell. That's what what happens here. So what I do is I use this and I pour probably somewhere between a quart to 2 quarts in a gallon or into the bathtub whenever I take my bath, and I soak in that for about 30 minutes, and it works great with getting that really funky smell off. So that I do that, and I'm trying to think. I know there's probably, oh yes, I also use it in the laundry. It works amazing if you have pets and you have like the dog hair buildup in your washing machine. If you pour some of that in and just wash it like on really hot water, I usually let it sit for a little while too. It works great at softening the hair to where it'll come off of the sides of the washing machine. That's great. I'm trying to think. That's all I can think of right now that I use it for, but there are so many uses for it, and if I figure out more uses, I will be sharing that along the way. And I hope so much that this helps someone. It's just a fun little project, and it's really fun too that you can customize it to however you want. So I thank y'all all so much for spending all the time with me and going through this whole process. It was a lot of fun. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye.